and then we've got that. Fabulous. Hey, hi Joe, great to see you. Wonderful. Fabulous. So we've got a good, we've, it's wonderful to see you guys there. We've got a good amount there for practice as well later. Wonderful. Well, look guys, last week we, hey, hi Ronald. Um, Last week we started basically I kind of introduced here kind of the one of the things that I think hopefully will make this even more fun for you all, the symbolic language, which is using it with some different types of tonalities. And the reason I think that's important is that the way that you ask these questions is going to really determine the results that you get. And so some of us who've been learning different types of tonalities have been using that specifically applied to the sales process. However, what I have been doing for a very long time, I think probably quite unconsciously, is to use them as I'm asking the questions. And what that does is it by getting those emotional frames right, the logical frames of what you're asking for will stand a much, much greater chance of landing. Okay, and honestly, it has amazed me. Hey, hi Sergio. It's amazed me powerfully um, how powerfully you can actually communicate just by changing by changing the tonality. And if you have a whole range of those that you move through, it's a very very effective way to do this. So last week what we did was we looked at the first of the Cialdini avatars, and the reason we're doing that is we can, as you know, the Cialdini principles are super powerful ways of being able to influence. They're tried, they're tested, they are really effective ways of communicating. But if we have a tonality avatar that sits for each of those Cialdini principles, then we can in effect evoke that principle just through the way that we speak. So last week we looked at the reasonable man, and that kind of has got that sense of, well, it's no big deal, you know. It's and in fact, I tell you what, I'll pop it in a minute. I have a couple of just like a little sheet that I'm going to build up that I'll share with you. But that whole sense of it's no big deal, well, that's fair enough. Of course you agree. Who wouldn't? Now that spirit behind that can easily be used to evoke a sense of reciprocity. You know, it's like, it's no big deal. Of course you agree. Who wouldn't? When I ask a simple question like, so when you are at your best, you are like what? And what that does is emotionally, you're framing the other person to be able to tell you that it's no big deal. No big deal to answer this. It's easy, straightforward. Now, we'll go on to the second one in just a minute, but remember, the reason we want to do this is that tonality basically is made up of a number of elements. So the tonality that you use is made up of your tone, which is the emotion. It's made up of the intonation, the kind of the rise and the fall. It's made up of the rate, the speed at which you speak. It's made up of your pitch. Is it higher? Is it lower? It's made up of volume, loud or soft, the tempo, the rhythm, and also pauses. It's made up of other things as well, but at least for our purposes here, we're going to pay close attention to the emotion that's conveyed by our tone, the volume, and the rate that we're speaking at, including pauses. So that's kind of like the bedrock behind it. And now we're going to move into this. Another way you might think about this is that by asking these questions, if you think about it as a performance, you've got Shakespeare or your favorite playwright, you've got the words written down, but those words are really fairly meaningless. They don't have anything, they don't convey any emotion. It's the person speaking them, who are using them, who are uttering them, who breathes the life into it. Okay, and that's really what we want to do. We want to do here. So that's what we kind of like we started introducing last week. And this week what I'll do, and I'll pop it in the chat for you here as well, is we want to start introducing the second Cialdini avatar. the good friend. Okay, and if you remember from, if you have looked at the Cialdini influence principles, basically liking is super powerful. People like people who are like them. And I mean, it's really, really crazy. So there's an example he gives in his book. So I've been reading the new version of his book. There's a real crazy example in that they have not been able to persuade people of the benefits of evolution for like, you know, decades and decades. And the scientists come in with all the logical frames. They can produce decades of research and so forth, and where it's affected different areas. It makes no difference in swaying people who have, should we say, are not inclined to be influenced that way. The one thing that they did find, however, was that if they picked a celebrity who was widely popular, and they started to just say, you know what, I've been reading this book and I really enjoy it. And in that book was pro-evolution, a huge number of people, or a significant number of people, started to change their point of view, all because of the liking principle. That's how powerful it is. Okay, whether rightly or wrongly, we're moved by our emotions more. We're not moved by the logic. You know, scientists will do this all the time. They'll just lay out, you know, all the logical reasons why you should believe in something. All right, but that's not how people are influenced. As a general rule, at least not the majority of people. They'll be more influenced by this liking, by the liking principle. So it's super powerful, and it's really, really easy to use, this particular one. All right. So there are three. I'll put just make sure everyone's got the little Google Doc there. There's three ways that you can, three particular ways that you can think about this to emphasize it. Okay. So the first is I care. Tell me. I really want to know. The second will be a sense of I feel your pain. I'm so sorry to hear that. And another way, which is another sort of little flavor of this, is I like you. You're a really good person. So let me, what I want to do, I want to just show you how you can use this. Now we've used, if we pick one phrase that we've used before, we've used this at the end of our, we've used this particular one at the end of our session. So we've used it, to seal in the deal, but you can actually ask it up front. So let me pick some. Stephen, do you mind just playing with us for a minute?
Sure.
Cool. So Stephen, can I just ask you quickly, just off the top of your head, what's something that you already enjoy, that's good enough, but you'd just like to experience more of, or just feel more of?
Tennis.
Tennis.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. So Stephen, when you experience more tennis, what difference would that make for you?
Well, you get some exercise. You get to get some aggression out.
And exercise and get aggression out. When you exercise and get aggression out, what difference would that make for you?
Well, I'd be healthier and calmer.
Healthier and calmer.
Yeah.
And when you're healthier and calmer, what difference would that make for you?
Well, I guess I would tend to be a little more happy.
And when you're happier, a bit happier like this, what difference would that make for you?
I'd feel good.
And when you feel good like this, what difference would that make?
Well, going back to the last question, this question, I would say I'm a little less harsh on other people sometimes. A little more patient.
And more patient.
Yeah.
And more patient. And more patient and more harsh. Oh, sorry, more patient and less harsh. Or more patient and less harsh. What difference does this make in your life?
Well, I think that there'd be more happy people.
More happy people.
Mhm.
Awesome. Yeah. More happy people. And when happy like this, Stephen,
Mhm.
that's happy like,
It's kind of like bit of a, well, it's kind of almost like a little marching band in this going in a circle.
and a marching band and going in a circle. And a marching band and going in a circle. So just take a moment now. I'm just going to pause for a moment. Take a moment just to get to know a marching band like this going in a circle. And I'll speak elsewhere for a moment. And I'll pop back. Take all the time you need to get to know a marching band like this and circle.
It's more like gypsies kind of dancing around.
And
Kind of.
gypsies and dancing. Take all the time you need with this. I'll speak elsewhere and I'll check back in a moment, Stephen. So the little thing at the end there, I just thought it's very, Stephen's kindly been with us here. We'll just get the metaphor whilst he's in a globe. But you can see there, we've just asked one question. What difference would that make? All right. And I started off in the liking, the good friend avatar, so liking. Then I shifted to the reasonable man, reciprocity, and I just altered backwards and forwards between the two of them. I could have stayed in any one of those. What you'll find though is that it's a lot easier to, you know, it keeps people engaged more with vocal variety. Okay, so by doing that. So hey, Stephen, how you doing?
Fine, good.
Cool. So any comments or any kind of like anything you want to kind of just say about your experience there?
Well, the transitions were relatively easy and flowed more or less.
Yep.
So we certainly get better and more accustomed to running these little processes. So I think that's quite
Yeah,
helpful.
definitely. And even though I was essentially asking the same question in different ways, what was your experience? That was it still quite quite pleasant to to be asked that and to go with that, as you mentioned with the transitions.
It seemed natural because I'm in my head doing stuff and you're just,
Yep.
so that was fine. Smooth, real.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you very much, Steve. Really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And that's perfect what Stephen just said there, that he's in his head doing his thing. That's exactly what we want for this. And that's why we're saying very, very little. I could have used the ritual a little bit. I could have used a ritual a little bit more there, and you can do that in your setup. So we've basically, the reason I picked that was I think it's an easy question to use. What difference would it make? We're going to be using that quite consistently or some variation of that at the end. You can use that in the beginning to set things up really nicely. Okay. And it's also really allows you to use the different tones of voice wonderfully. So over the next few weeks, we're going to be introduced to one of the avatars per week. This week, I encourage you to play a little bit with the liking, with the good, the good friend. It's a really, really powerful one to use. If you're ever in a process and somebody's struggling a little bit, when you're doing the ritual, just shift to using that. When you shift to that, sort of and happiness, and playing, and more patient. And when all of that, you're like, so you're conveying this meta message of tell me who really want to know, right? Compassion, non-judgmental, interested, totally present there for them, okay? Remember, overall, it's going to be more, any communication is going to be more engaging when we have vocal variety. So that's why I just mixed up a little bit there with the reason with the good friends and then going to reasonable man, good friend, reasonable man. And you can do this. And there are lots more of these tonalities, as I say, we can move in. Some of them will be probably a little bit more suited to certain questions than others, but you can have a play around with them. And let's just have a little look. I've just seen a comment there. Read between the lines and answer the question that you think I meant to or should have asked. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And honestly, we don't need to say, if you get the tonality right, you can see you don't need to ask very much. And just like with Stephen's experience, we want everything will take place inside their heads. And in fact, by asking much less, what the really cool thing is that they basically, essentially, your client, your subject will tune you out. It's kind of as that you're kind of there just in the almost in the periphery, which is perfect. That's what you want. You want them to have the experience. You want them to go in there and enjoy that. So before we do go out to the breakout rooms in a minute, any comments? Any questions? Or does that kind of make sense? Sam, go on.
Yeah, it seems to me this also, as you said, it all has also to do with those feelings that drive people from
Yes.
within. So as I understand it, the reasonable man, I mean the friend, of course, the friend, what is that, H plus?
Yes.
Being a good friend.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
And then, of course, if you delve into that H plus, if you feel that H plus from within, then automatically the right languaging occurs. And yes. How bad is it with the first one, with the
reasonable man? Yeah.
Reasonable man. Yes. I mean, is that more? What lies behind that? What kind of emotions?
Great.
Is it proudness, or is it sureness, or is it security?
Yes. Perfect. And I love what you said there, Sam, about it being flavors of H plus. What lies behind reciprocity is everything's casual. It's no big deal. All right. It's like a sense of it's a sense of I guess I got your back no matter what. It's no big deal. If you can answer this or not answer it, no big deal. In fact, even what I'm asking you is no big deal. It's a walk in the park for you. And it's a really, really useful one, because what happens is, let's say you're working with somebody and you say, when you're at your best, you're like, and they're sort of struggling, they say, oh, I don't know, I'm just, I'm not sure. And when you're at your best, that best is like, all right, so you can fall back on it. You can go, the more that somebody struggles with the process, the more you can use that. So to emphasize, it's a flavor of H plus. So if you think of it like a little dial or like a channel, you're starting off. You might start off with good friend or whatever you want, but it's still good to have a little bit of variety in that for the person. Because if your whole session is tell me, I really want to know. Now you can do that, but for some people that's simply you're gonna have to change and match their energy anyway. Okay, you'll just have to you kind of want to sort of meet a little bit where they're at. But if they're really highly emotional, then switching to tell me, I really want to know, that kind of tonality is going to be important. But if they're just kind of struggling a little bit in the process, they've got a bit of performance anxiety, then the H plus dial will go around to, and and happiness and patience. And when all of that, you're like, so it's very casual. You're having that whole thing of like, you're basically reassuring them and taking away any kind of performance anxiety.
Maybe if I may insert it's a bit like small talk, sort of a little bit distanced. Not tell me now. Now tell me what you're shocked about my question. No, it's more sort of going a little bit into the distance.
Yes.
Small talk. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you, I think there's something to that, Sam. You know, I
Yeah.
think you could be onto something there. You know, because here's the thing, Sam. Right? It what comes through wherever we want to make that distinction between small talk and big talk and work talk. The thing that is communicated, really, what does the communicating in our communication, the is the resonance and the qualities of the voice and the body. It's not the logic of what's said, although that's what people think is the thing that's there. So in a way, you're right. You could be having small talk, or it seems like small talk, but then the real richness is coming through, and that's why this is so powerful. I mean, that's why the premier sales sort of systems in the world are using this, working on the tonality, because that's what influences, you know, and then it just behooves you that, you know, to use that ethically, to either only promise the things that you can do, or be you know, just use it in the situations where it's most appropriate. You know, for instance, if you start using the really like me, I tell me I want to know with everyone, then what will happen is you'll just have a whole bunch of people who want to be your friend, who will like expect you to kind of be there and do that. So you have to use it with a little bit of wisdom. But I take your point. It's very kind of, it's very, these things are very they're almost, they're very covert in terms of communication. You know, and I remember for most folk, like in their day-to-day communication, they don't really make a distinction necessarily. They don't really have the distinctions that we've got between small talk and big talk and work talk. They'll just think of chatting and I'm either having a pleasant experience or I'm not, you know, or it was an interesting or fun experience. But specifically using these for what we're doing, which I guess is kind of going into big talk, you know, using the symbolic language or work talk, then these are ways to train you to really enjoy this process and not get, and have the other person be able to answer, be able to go into their own experience and answer it, because it makes them kind of like say, oh, you've asked such a reasonable request. It's like, yeah, of course I can do. Basically what happens in the sales cycle of this, say for instance, they're using the reasonable amount of reciprocity tonality, the person goes inside their mind after whatever you said and said, oh, of course, what this person has just said to me is just so reasonable. It's so reasonable. Yeah, I can definitely do that. Yeah, I think this is a really good product that they've got. You know, I really want to listen to what they've got to say. I really like this person. All right. They automatically, just by the tone of voice, start going inside, having that conversation inside their head. I mean, it's such a powerful way, because there's no resistance. You know, if you do a blitz with somebody and you start saying, you're good, you know, you're enjoying this and you're enjoying this conversation and you really trust me, you know, their mind's going to start throwing stuff out. There's so many ways in which they can reject that. However, if their mind automatically does that, and they don't even know why it's doing it, it's just from the communicated by the tone of voice, and you have a very, very powerful, exactly, it's like this person is my good friend. So it's super, super powerful. And then when we bring it over to this, if we bring it over to the symbolic language, well, now we can start really, you know, they're asked a question, like a metaphor question. It's like, well, yeah, it's just such an, you know, it's no big deal. It's no big deal to answer this. Yeah. When you're at your best, you're like, yeah, and happy. And giant Buddha. When giant Buddha, kind of Buddha is this Buddha? Now, if you shift into tell me, I really want to, this tonality of tell me, I really want to know. Okay, you're guiding them. You're asking a question for them to logically reply to, but unconsciously, the emotional frame is, tell me, I really want to know, and that's the message that's going through to them. So it's working on those. It's working on those different levels, and so let's have a little look. Absolutely, Stephen. Absolutely, of course. I love it. Or you always yeah, Stephen. Right? It's a great question. No big deal. So yeah. So that's exactly that's exactly it, and that's exactly what we're going to be doing here even more. So without further ado, let me set up some rooms. I just got to figure out numbers here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's cool. So let's see what we have got here. breakout rooms. Okay. Right. Let's do that. And okay. Yeah. Let's go and do that. Room 3. Yeah. Okay.
Richard, are we using a particular address or whatever we want?
Yeah, just before you go up, look, use the why don't you use when you're at your happiest? You know, but you can have when you're at your happiest, you are like what? When you are feeling the most grateful, you know, or you can just ask them. Just say, you know, when you know, what would you like? What emotion or what feeling would you like the most of? And you know, confidence is usually quite a good one. So when you feel the most confident or the most happy, but yeah, maybe you can ask. You could always ask them for that, but just just do it really quickly. So, you know, oh, cool. So if you could feel more of anything you wanted to, what would that be? And if they say confidence, then fantastic. Then you can go into that and use that as in the address. And you can run through either just metaphor and deepening, or you can go through a whole you know, a whole cycle of questions. But see if you can just shift a little bit. Even if you do it fairly randomly, that's absolutely fine. The way I would do this, I would start off with reciprocity, then I would go for the reasonable man, then I would go for liking, and I would just go backwards and forwards, and just see what the effect it has as you ask the questions, as you observe the other person. Okay, room's opening now, so go and have some fun, guys, and I'll get you back about 5-2. Hey, welcome back, guys.
Hi.
Hey. Hi, look, I know I'm happy to stay on a little bit past the hour, but I know Steve and some of the others will often pop off a little bit to go to the next call. Just for anyone who's going to go on to the next call, is any feedback they want to give or any comments? Welcome back, guys. I'm going to go over to Casper in just a sec, but I just wanted to see if there was anyone who's going to be popping on the next call. Going to go over to the perhaps go over to the practice call. It's got to leave. Who might just want to who just wanted to ask anything or give any feedback? Joe.
Cool. I just have to say this about Clint. Wow, dude, you're freaking amazing. So I just want to say thank you very much. It was, I mean, I was describing it like sort of like, you know, occasionally you do feel the sense of burnout and just sort of like kind of stretched. And it was just the way he did it and just kept asking the same questions. Like once, you know, we had that final symbol and just kept reinforcing it. It is an incredibly powerful tool. And Clint, you've done that masterfully. So much appreciated. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks for sharing, Joe. Great job. Great job.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate you. And I appreciate going through that journey with you. It was fun.
Definitely.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. And Stephen? Oh, you just put to the thumbs up, didn't you? So cool.
Yeah, I was just waving Leah off. I was noticing trying to go between the two tonalities. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I kind of lose it and just, you know, just try to have a good H+.
Yep.
So, but there is points where it's like, okay, a little of reasonableness and a little bit of liking.
Yep. So. Definitely. Look, it's I spent probably like a year, well, really the last 15 months practicing those tonalities and developing them for lots of different things. And it's just in here, it gives a lot of, it's a way to channel your sort of your H+ and your hypnotic insistence in a way that will do it. Because what will happen is you'll start off your sentence with one tonality, then pause, then shift to another. And eventually what will happen is you'll blend maybe 2 or 3 of them together. Okay. And then like, even at the same time, there'll be overtones of stuff. So as that happens, it basically, what it means is from your point of view, like this has multiple benefits, but one is from your point of view, you're always, they're basically core questions that we're asking here. And they don't change that. I mean, you can change the formulation a bit, I guess, but to keep it fresh and to keep your mind fresh and to keep you engaged with it, if every time you ask it, it's like the first time, it's a unique performance, that will stay stimulating for you, and it will stimulate their unconscious mind a lot as well. So, you know, and because you're doing something new with this as well, yeah, sometimes it will feel more. You'll see that some of them will settle more than others, and the actual tonalities. When we, for instance, get like the socialite next week, works great for some. The mystery man the week after is just perfect, and you can use that, you know, right across the board. So that's a fair point.
Sounds mysterious.
It is.
Okay, cool.
Hey, you're welcome. So look, so Gasper, I know you you came up before, so great to see you here today, Gasper.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I also have to leave for my next call. I just wanted to say that, Stephen, it was great. You know, I could feel shifting the tonalities on the moments, and you know, sometimes it was just H plus. I was dealing with some stuff, and Stephen lead me through it with symbolic language. So that was really nice, and the pressure in my head, it's practically gone. It's really amazing. You know, I just can't believe it. You know, sometimes I feel like, wow, this can't work. You know, you get those moments, right? But then someone uses that on you, and it's again, whoa, what's happening? Yeah. Amazing. So great.
Hey, great job, Stephen.
Yeah.
And thank you for sharing, Gasper. That's awesome. Fantastic.
And
yeah, something small. Great. It can small, quickly, fast, and you know, and that's you know, the thing here is we have a small amount of time to do that, but isn't it amazing what you can achieve in such a small amount of time? You imagine once you've got 7 Cialdinis. I haven't even figured out the avatar yet for the 7th, but when we do, you can have 7 of these to use, and everything else. These are not the only ones. So great job, guys.
Great. And it's great shifting between them, really.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun, isn't it? It's a lot of fun.
Yes.
It's a lot of fun. Thank you so much, Gasper. Have a fantastic rest of the night. Yeah, and thank you too, Stephen. Look, one of the things is, and I can hang around here for a bit for those of you who want to, you know, go into this a little bit. But when you started using these tonalities, what happened was, to practice them, I cycled through the 6 that we learned, like with those 3 different flavors of each of them. So I guess it's kind of like 18, but it's 3 that there's like little flavors in amongst each of those. I would cycle through them when I was telling bedtime stories to my son, and I would just use them in my meetings at work to make them more interesting. And what happened was, as I would just cycle through them all the time, I would just cycle through them in order. I would just stick to the same order, then have to think about it. Everything became more interesting. You know, it's amazing how the books, you could read a book and those tonalities will fit, and the emphasis that it gives. And then something really interesting started to happen, which is I started to feel happier and be able to express my own emotions more and be more creative and more expressive. And what would happen is, you know, like something would go and I'd go, oh shit, I've just stubbed my toe, and her voice coming in, it's okay. It's no big deal. Hey, it's okay. Just stubbed your toe. You know, and you're going to be okay. It's going to feel better. All right. So my self-talk would start to go through that. And when you start adjusting your routine self-talk and start picking the right kind of avatar for you, man, now that's when some really interesting stuff can happen. So you know, to actually do these tonalities, if you think about it in terms of H+, to actually express something with a tonality, with the emotional component, you have to feel it first. And so then when you feel it inside and you do that on a routine basis, well, you know, the more you start to feel it, the easier it is for you to find that as an access point. And then you naturally develop more range inside yourself. And then one of the corollaries of feeling that inside is that your self-talk naturally follows on from that. So that's just another kind of little ancillary benefit of using these, and understanding about the power of the tone of voice. So anyone else got anything, any questions, any comments? What was that like for you guys?
I have a comment. That was so interesting to think about the Cialdinis when asking the questions, because I hadn't done that before. And so to bring it to my awareness, like what am I doing? And it was really helpful for me. I think oftentimes, I think I go to good friend a lot, and it's maybe not always necessary or needed for the moment. So I found myself also going into the reciprocity, like it's no big deal. I think that one's not that comfortable for me.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so and then it kind of let off some of the pressure, I think, as well. So that's how
Yes, yeah.
I think it just kind of, I'm curious to see if Leszek noticed any difference when I would change it up. But it was really great. And then I also looked at myself on the screen, and I could see this like frown. That's a bit like, so I sort of I let it on my face show a little differently too, and just be a little lighter.
Definitely.
I'm
Nice.
curious, Leszek, what was your experience? But that's what I noticed.
Perfect. Well, what did you notice then, Leszek?
One moment, because I shared myself because my internet connection was unstable, and I switched to the mobile, and it was really great, and it was that the journey that through different ideas, through different symbols, and it was easy for me to just so I didn't focus on tonality. It was just natural and intuitive for me that I want to share with Anapia this stuff. It was, I think, and after a while, I asked myself after we finished this, I asked, did she switch this her tonality? I don't know, because I focus on something else, and I think this is the idea that stands behind this changing, behind this tonalities, to help someone to do this, what I did. So thank you very much.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. And the funny thing was, as you were saying there, Leszek, about it, I didn't even caught that, but you just went, no, just do this. All right. So you were all right, and that's right. And the reason it probably seems invisible is you'll probably do that. You probably find reasonable man is probably quite natural. You're probably quite a natural one for you. And also, these are invisible. You won't necessarily detect them in other people, even unless you really know what to look for. It's just we're not trained to sort of notice, this person's in this thing. We just have a sense that we feel or think differently. I mean, unless it's really exaggerated. If somebody was shouting and irate or whatever, of course we would pick up on that. But otherwise, it's very subtle, this. But what it does is it makes it much easier for the other person. A really good analogy might be this: that you're focusing on their images, and if you want to help another person into that symbolism, you say less. And you can picture it in your mind. So it won't be exactly the same, but as they say, and castle, you can picture a castle. Then you kind of know where the starting symbol is. But the soundtrack, if that's the film, the movie, the soundtrack to it is the tonality.
Yeah.
That's and right. Just as in any film, you don't want, even in the Amadeus, if you watch the Amadeus movie, or you watch any film, you don't want the most dramatic music the whole time, and you don't want it to be the same. I mean, there are things I did watch so recently which had the same tone of plinky plink music all the way through, and man, that's really tedious. It's really tedious. We want variety, and we want it punctuated at certain points, and this allows you to do that. And it allows you to help them create that spike inside their own mind, that like to guide them through that kind of emotional sort of roller coaster of stuff that's there, but it's very invisible.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much. Can I ask you a question, Richard?
Yes, yes, please.
Yes, you said on the other call, you said about this Cialdini new book,
Yes.
Influence and
Yes.
New and Expanded. And I
Yes.
have a question. Have you read it already? Yet?
Yes.
Have
Well,
you...
I've read about 2/3 of it. What I was going to finish all the way through, but I thought since I was doing the avatars here, I'm reading. I'm sort of spending like I've gone through the liking one a few times. I've read the social proof a few times, which is the one for next week.
So I read this book from 1984, Psychology of Influence. So it was very nice, and I am considering now if it is similar, it is worth reading, because this is something new that I can read, that I can get from the book, because I have just a long list what I want to read.
Well, I wouldn't worry too much. I wouldn't worry honestly too much about it. I would say probably. I mean, I know it's true. I mean, the three best books I've read on influence are probably this Cialdini book, The Way of the Wolf by Jordan Belfort, which is about the tonalities, and then Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. Because Chris Voss Never Split the Difference, he only has two tonalities he uses: the cheerful person, upbeat, and then calm, switching into a calm voice. But he basically has inferences.
Night speaker?
What's that?
The radio night speaker or something like that.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. The radio, late night radio DJ, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, exactly. And he uses inferences, and I can't remember what the name is. He doesn't call them mind reads, inferences, or insights. He calls them something else. I can't remember the exact terminology, but he does that, and he explains the neuroscience behind it. That basically, if you say to somebody, "Oh, you seem a bit agitated. You sort of seem like there's a lot of emotion there." What happens is, by recognizing it, if you can pace it right, and part of that will be the tone of voice, but if you can pace that right, then immediately they can measure some brain scans. Their brains change. It just releases, or the amygdala will just release all the tension just through one insight and one inference. So those three books are good. The Cialdini one is really well written. I mean, I will say some bits of it make my stomach turn a bit. There's quite, I don't like a lot of the influence stuff there, the way it's used with social proof. I don't like the way it's used in liking a lot of the time. You know, it's manipulative. I mean, a lot of the time he's citing studies. I don't always agree with the lines that he draws and the sound as well. You know, like for instance, he says, it's good to be strategic with this, but if you use things like, if you deliberately change the way that you are doing something to influence somebody else, well, that's manipulative. And I thought, well, that's the whole kind of thing of his book, is that you're doing that. And it depends on your intention behind it. But I would say, because I hadn't read it in its fullness before, and because I got so much benefit from using these tonalities and thinking in that way, I was really curious to go in. And I will say that if you wanted to just have one book to know basically it's the book that all marketers use. And it's really well written. I've got the Audible book of it, so I'm listening to it read by the author, and I've got the Kindle version. So I think it's really nice. It's really well written.
Are you talking about this old psychology of persuasion? The new. Oh
yeah. Oh no. So actually, well, the psychology of persuasion.
The new version is in audio as well.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, and I think the Psychology of Persuasion is a different author, if I'm thinking of the Psychology of Persuasion, whereas Influence is by Cialdini. I think
this is Cialdini's from 1984.
Oh, is that Cialdini's? Is it Psychology?
I say about this Cialdini, the Psychology of Persuasion is
Influence. I thought that was a different author.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is seven maybe principles. Yeah.
So I mean, I really like it, Leszek. I think it's a very well written book. It is very, very clear.
Okay.
It has been updated with a new principle in there, the principle of unity, and it's also got a lot of case studies in there, and it's also got some stuff discussing stuff online. So I think it's useful. but don't sweat it. It doesn't, in terms of what we're doing here, I'll make sure you've got plenty here. So, you know, it might be something that afterwards, after we've gone through all the things here, then if you were to go back into it, for me, one of the reasons actually I wanted to read it is not because I'm that fussed about doing it. I just want to build up some stronger avatars for myself, some new avatars of things that I can do. For instance, we were having a discussion about ones that you could pick from, if you like, superheroes. So for instance, next week we're going to do the socialite. And if you've seen any of the Iron Man films, in Iron Man 2, he comes through the air, jumps out of a plane, and he lands at his Stark Expo at the beginning. And he's like this, and everyone's smiling and laughing, and it just feels amazing, and they're clapping. And that is, you know, that's the socialite. That's the avatar for, you know, social proof. You know, it's just so fun. It's just so engaging that he's there. So I'm constantly looking for avatars like that. So that was really my purpose of reading it. But you'll get all the core. You'll get the core essence of it from what we're doing here. But yeah, definitely worth. I think those 3 books in particular are worth reading, and I'm going to go back and reread them all because there's just a lot of practical. They're all very practical as well. There's stuff you can take there and you can implement.
Yeah, agree. Thank you very much.
Hey, you're welcome. You're welcome, Les.
And thank you very much, Anna Pia. Thank you very much.
Hey, so how about we've got Patrick and Bob, Sam, Sergio. How are you guys doing? How did you find today? What did you learn? What was of interest to you?
I found it very powerful. I was working with Ronald, and he quickly I think it was the first sentence, he just went deeply in there, and we went into dragons and lions. And he mentioned Donald Trump, so I said duck. And it was like a shadow run after shadow run. It was just getting deeper all the time. So it was very effective with him. Just been very reasonable and having the pauses, and then we had 58 seconds and we hadn't finished. So so very powerful.
Great job, Sergio. I think you mentioned about the pauses there, and I think that is the that is really important, and we'll see that it's a very natural way to shift the tonalities mid-sentence.
Yep.
So particularly and I think a classic way to use it just at the beginning, you know, when you are at your best, you are like, and you can have there in essence, you know, 2 or 3 pauses in there, and you can shift between different, you know, you can even know those of you know the satire categories, you can move into some of those as well. So you can start blending those things together very, very naturally. So it sounds like you really enjoyed it, Sergio.
Yep, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I was just giving Ronald a session, and yes, and he was going deeper every time, and Donald. And duck.
Awesome. Fantastic. Fantastic.
And Trump.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Well, look, hey, great job, Sergio. And did Ronald have a chance? Did you have a chance to experience it? You had a chance to experience it both ways, yeah?
No, I didn't have a chance to experience it the other way. No.
Okay, just the one. Okay, cool. Fantastic.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure Ronald was looking very happy when he came back. So thank you.
Yes.
Great job, Sergio.
Yeah, he seemed to have a major shift, so that was good. Yep.
Wonderful. Isn't it interesting? It doesn't take that long with this, does it?
No. But the first sentence normally starts triggering things off with people.
Yep. And if I'm kind of like my whole idea of putting this together like this is, I mean, as you were saying, Anna Pia, about the you haven't sort of come across it like this before. We're pioneers here, because nobody's, you know, I know Eagle's done a sort of little thing with the sales stuff, but no one's done it for this. And it just struck me that this was just such a powerful application, because I think that's why I've naturally, because I was using it just all the time anyway, just kind of like randomly day to day, it ended up coming through to here, but I didn't know I was doing it. I didn't know I was integrating them. but then that's why it's making it so much easier, you know, and more powerful. Anna Pia, have a lovely rest of the day. Take care. Thank you so much for coming. Yes, so it's wonderful. And I think you mentioned, Patrick, before that we're using the ritual here, and the ritual does a lot of this anyway. And so the nice thing is that you can do that, you know, the rituals where, you know, things like liking the good friend can come in really, really nicely and easily into that as a way to really set the scene. And then there are other tonalities that we can use when, for instance, we're doing the action questions. So once we've got together a few more of these tonalities, we'll start, in particular, when we've got all 7, we'll start looking at which ones we could use for like some of the different types of questions.
I find it tricky to hold that specific information in my consciousness at the same time as I'm holding the net of sort of the 60-second like just everything that I'm learning. It feels like there's a sweet spot where it's all just hovering together, and if I try to focus a part of my attention on one piece of that, it's like, oh, we're
yes. Okay, well, so I'll speak to that because I think that's really important. That's why, in essence, we've got that 60-second thing as a script. Of course, there's loads of ways in which we could ask these questions, lots of different orders and flavors of them. But I stick to the same, pretty much the same thing. When you are, you know, at your happiest, you are like, and then what I can do then is, it means that I can completely focus my attention on the tonalities that I'm using, on the delivery of that. Because the logical frames are there, they're not going to change. Or I could go to when you are at your best. You are like, all right. So I'm focusing completely on that, yeah. And you can see the experience, you can feel it viscerally inside you. And that's why, like Sergio's saying, he can do it with the first question because he's got the emotional framing so strong. It's like, this is like rehearsing your rapid instant induction so that you can basically get people there every time. And then you know your deepeners, you know, let's go deeper, deeper, deeper. That's right, always going deeper. And the more you hear my voice, the deeper you go. The deeper you go, the more relaxed you become. The more relaxed you become, the deeper you go. Deeper, deeper, deeper. Always going deeper. As my hands on the shoulder, deeper, deeper, deeper. So we're doing that with this. You achieve basically all of that as you ask the question with your tonality. We take them there. The ritual keeps that going, and then a deepening question that you ask basically just deepens that and takes them in there. But it takes them in there very, very in a very, very elegant way. And so as you go through this,
you can ask the exact same script in 20 different ways.
Yes, yeah.
Just by changing the tonality.
Absolutely, and what you'll find is, in essence, actually, it goes more than wide than that. It's going to always be different, and so it's really reassuring. So that then, because on the face of it, you think, well, he's asking these questions, how can it be that interesting? But to do it, you have to go into the performance. So you have to, like, right, you've walked out on stage now, so you feel that you should be feeling some strong emotion inside you, and then you channel that emotion through the words. The words are just like a vehicle to do that. And then the other person will be off straight away, like Sergio said, in their own mind, like Stephen had at the beginning. He's just like having his own experience there. And even without me deepening it, you know, I was just going to ask him the question, but I thought, well, he's got a little thing, let's ask Happy. He said, oh, I've got these, you know, this thing in the circle. And then he was like, oh, they're dancing gypsies. It's going to carry on by themselves. I mean, really, at that point, we're going to need to do very, very little. We've still got the logical frame, so the questions just to help guide them, but we've created such momentum by the hypnotic intensity and focus, underlined by which is all supported by the music score in the background.
This methodology holds some kind of precursor for self-hypnosis. You had shared
Yes.
your own process of your inner dialogue is now
Yes.
speaking to you as a dear friend.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. It's a fair point. I mean, absolutely, you can. I mean, I think it's a beautiful way to do it. I think what's nice with this is because it's so unexpected. Even if you've been asked these questions a dozen times, 100 times, 500 times before, because it sounds different from the person there, and they're channeling their H plus through it. Bob, it's lovely to see you again, my friend. You take care. you can't help. You can't help but, as the recipient of that, experience that. So it's a very quick way to guide somebody there. But you're absolutely right. I mean, you can do variations of this with the beyond self hypnosis. You know, the mindfulness and then sort of mentalizing. It's just this is very, very quick. It's a very, very sort of it's a very quick, very efficient way to do it. But ultimately, that's right. That's why when people say all hypnosis is self-hypnosis, it is because the other person has to fully engage with it and be able to do that. And that's why when they're in a great state, just saying take all the time you need and giving that time there, it's time really well spent. They've now got themselves into the place where they want. You don't need to do anything at that point. Just let them bathe in it. You know, let them really get to know that. And now they can connect with it. Their neurology will be able to access it more easily. They'll get more insights coming through. They're going to feel really good. It's a great convincer. It's got all these things built in. So yeah, great insights.
PCAT formula. It is so specifically PCAT formula. Take all the time you like to get to know what it's like now that this, and
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So
yeah, definitely. And I think Sergio was talking about doing lots of little loops. It's a great way to think of this, you know. And I've sort of reviewed it all the way through, but there are some videos Igor did on the first class course where he worked with somebody. But in essence, the way to use this is you work they're all like little loops, might be 2 minutes, 5 minutes. But once the symbols evolve, take all the time you need to get to know and experience feeling like this. Really get to know and experience like this. And then just pick up where they are there, get the next symbol or take that symbol wherever it is, and then just continue on the next part of it. And so you've got these multiple iterations of the PCAT formula, but done symbolically, i.e. really unconsciously. And they don't really understand, or most of the people don't really understand the mappings of what's going on there. I don't, and I don't try to understand it. I mean, there are maybe some things you can read between the lines on, but you don't need to. You don't need to understand. You don't need to translate it back. Just get to enjoy the experience of the PCATs in action.
I feel a tiny bit more conscious about the process, but it still fascinates me. I cannot believe how powerful it is.
Yes. Look, I every time I come here each week, it reignites for me my enthusiasm for this and why it's so powerful. I mean, I had a session with my coach just before this actually, where we did some stuff, and then at the end, you know, I picked something. I like to pick the biggest thing. That's just me. And then there was it's like a window with something like small at one point, and then later on I was like, oh, it's this great feeling. So a good great feeling when be interested in going to this like window when little thing. And I said, oh man, it's like the sunlight coming in. And it's just like, oh, and the whole thing is filled up with light. I felt happier, I felt lighter, I felt more energized. My head was immediately cleared, you know, my perception's on, you know, I feel happy to face life, you know, I feel uplifted, inspired, and all of that in a few seconds. And I don't even really know why. I mean, they're just symbolic representations of a bunch of resources going somewhere else, and I feel good, and it's fun. Now, of course, with some people, you might take a little bit of trance training to help them to be comfortable with that, and that's where if you think of it in these 2 to 5 minute cycles, then just give them a little gift. Take care, Leszek. Thank you very much, my friends. Lovely to see you today.
Ciao, Leszek.
Yeah, just, you know, like for instance, the inner smile.
The practicing hypnosis without fear protocol was the first time I saw that done, where you would do a little tiny process, and then you would bring the person out of the process, and you would talk about it, and just chit chat. and then you would enter back into it again, and each time you're learning more about each other.
Definitely.
And
definitely.
yeah,
Definitely. And if you saw at the beginning with Stephen, I just asked him, what would you want more of? And he just said tennis, one word. And you would think like, now, of course, there's lots of things you could do with that if you were coaching. So if I just said, well, what difference would that make? And then I asked that 5 or 6 times. And then at the end, he said, I would be less impatient, and I'd be happy. I'd be more happy. And then you just, you've got that there. Okay. And when happy, that's like, and you're straight in there. So they've gone through that process. So, it doesn't, there are lots of ways in which you can set it up. I mean, I typically now I will give someone the inner smile so that they're in a nice state. And that we've got rapport and they can see that they can do that and experience it. And then I'll bring them back. So it's only going to take a couple of minutes. And then I can do it. So I tend to do that my consultation call. So I'll just give gifts like that out to people, and then I'll get a symbol for it afterwards. So it doesn't really matter where you started, but you're right, it's super powerful. And the only benefit of us knowing a little bit about the principles behind it and understanding them is just so that we can use it a little bit more elegantly, a little bit more efficiently. But honestly, the beautiful thing with this is, and one of the reasons I want everyone why it's nice just to have the tonalities with this is there isn't that much you need to do to be quite proficient at it and to help somebody get a massive change. And the secret is to drill it enough so that you feel very comfortable in yourself. You can turn on all those flavors of H+. So no matter what they get at you, the more challenged they become, the more reasonable man you become, the more good friend you can embody. And you can naturally switch to those. And then when you ask the questions, it's no big deal for them. You got their back.
And emotional range.
Yes.
Like I feel myself personally changing the more I practice this.
Yes. Yes.
Everything in my life is changing.
Beautiful. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job, Patrick. Wonderful.
And nonverbals, including like someone says, and what difference does that make? And they do the, that's right. And when,
perfect. That
really
is a beautiful
powerful
way to do it. Yeah, definitely. You absolutely got it. And you can do that. And if they have a particular gesture, it's like if they go, you can go, and when, then what happens?
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. Spot on. What you look, and really now what we're doing here is quite sophisticated nuances of nonverbal communication and the things that we're noticing here. And of course, we can read about these in different books, and you can see them all written down. And these are the 14 different nonverbal signs you can get of trance and so forth. But when you experience it this way, and you know the questions, you know the kind of like different the kind of like basic sequences, and there are other kind of sequences we can do as well, and then you feel it strongly inside, then most of your attention is either on your delivery, it's kind of simultaneously on your delivery of it and observing the other person, so you can really notice what's going on, because there's not really too much else that you need to pay attention to, because you know it so well, and because you've had that many experience with it as well, you know in your heart of hearts how powerful this is and that it works. Beyond any shadow of a doubt. And every week when you turn up, even the most diehard person who needs constant reassurance, every single week you come, you feed from the well, from the spring, and you experience it.
One of you is the next Messiah.
Good job. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you.
And you're welcome. It's beautiful to hear. And last but not least, Sam, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing quite fine. Yeah. Actually, I was working with Bob, and so first I did a run with him, and then he did a run with me, and he was sitting in front of me and looking at me in the eyes, and I saw his eyes, I heard his voice, And he was asking these questions. And well, I went within so that I could answer. And it went on, and things sort of started to open up within me, and it got really interesting. And you know, Bob is the kind of person that really he's experienced, and he has a lot of life experience, and so that really comes through the way he works. And so he got into these symbols of caringness and being a hero and being in the big flow of things in life with this wonderful tinting, with this wonderful tint of like these polarized sunglasses of being caring. I mean, having an adventure, but being caring. So what a beautiful mix. And I really suck it up like a sponge, you know, hungry for, as Patrick was saying, this is pure, just a form of building one's character, becoming a gentleman, becoming evolved as a human being. I mean, if I'm delving in these deep experiences of being caring, having adventure, but being caring. I mean, this is character building in its essence.
Yes.
So it's a very noble path to be with you, Richard, and to share all this here. And it's a very noble deed that we are doing here. And I really hope that this catches on in a mainstream form of just we human beings being here together and really evolving. So I really want to thank you,
thank you, Sam.
Richard,
Thank you, Sam.
for leading us with that glowing torch and animating us every week. You know, that's a big thing. Yeah. So
thank you, Sam.
And also Sergio and Patrick for his he has such a wonderful, nuanced, differentiated way of expressing things and bringing them on the table. And Sergio also, his deep trance, pure Vipassana style. That is so wonderful to be here with you.
Agreed.
With these heroes.
Agreed.
I can't say.
Agreed, guys. Look, to the degree life allows it and breath allows it, you know, coming here each week on the hero's journey together, Sam, is just an absolute joy. I mean, the nicest people in the world. We are, like somebody said to me this week, I think it was maybe Gasper asked me, would you go call yourself more like hypnotist now, coaching, or what are you more interested in? I said transformation. You know, that's what I'm interested in, because I think that as you transform, as we all transform, it can't not affect other people. You know, whether it's like thinking about it in terms of the morphogenic field, whether it's just talking about a unit level or the other people we interact with in our lives, or the people that we work with. When we transform ourselves, we transform, you know, it's one for all and all for one. You know, and this journey here, to, you know, the journey that we're taking, you know, it's such a taking the hero's journey with compassion and with support and with comrades on the journey, you know, to check in with and meet up with at the inn on the route, makes it a lot more, it just makes the journey, well, fun. You know, it's you can be refreshed. You know, you can drink from the spring, and you know, and that's it because you know, Gandhi apparently said, well, he did not, you know, be the change you want to see in the world, and you know, if we want more people to do that, we're turning up and we're doing that here. So we're pioneering that, and we're pioneering this with the tonalities and stuff, and we're taking, you know, and that will transform us, and it will carry on transforming other people. And one day, this will expand more widely, I have no doubt. in whatever way, shape or form. And we're being there, you know, we're going on our quest, you know, we're going on our quest to Mordor each week to get, you know, put the ring in there and see what transforms at the end of it, you know, and we're carrying on with that. And I really appreciate you guys, you know, coming here so consistent and being part of that. And Sam, and I love your insights and your way of expressing that as well. So I'm going to take that warmth in my heart with me now. And I just want to say thank you so much again, guys. It's fantastic. I love it every week when you come here. It's just amazing. And we will, if I don't see you before, we'll have an awesome week. And next week we will delve even deeper into this magical, mysterious realm and continue consolidating on our powers. And take care.
Thank you, Richard.
Hey, you're welcome. Bye-bye. Bye.
Right.
Bye-bye.